The year was 2487, a time when humanity, known formally as the United Solarian Federation, had expanded its reach across the cosmos, not through conquest, but through cautious exploration and eventually peaceful first contact with numerous alien species, among them the vast and ancient Lyrani hegemony, a reptilian empire of immense power and intricate social structures that spanned dozens of star systems. Their capital world, Xylos, a breathtaking spectacle of organic architecture and shimmering cities built into colossal, crystalline spires that pierced the perpetually twilight sky, always bathed in the soft glow of Xylos's binary suns. On this awe-inspiring alien world, a small but significant human diplomatic presence was maintained, a testament to the fragile peace and burgeoning alliance between two vastly different civilizations, and as part of this diplomatic accord, a contingent of the human royal guard was assigned to protect key Lyrani figures, a role that often felt more symbolic than practical, given the Lyrani's own formidable security forces. Yet it was a sign of trust, a bridge built between species. Among these elite guards was Sergeant Jenna Jocks Riley, a woman whose name had become synonymous with unwavering dedication and unparalleled skill, a decorated veteran of numerous low-intensity conflicts and high-stakes diplomatic missions, her reputation preceding her even among the stoic Lyrani, who initially viewed the concept of a human guard for their sacred empress with a mix of curiosity and thinly veiled skepticism. Jocks, with her compact frame, sharp, observant eyes that missed nothing, and a quiet competence that radiated confidence, had, over her 2 cycles on Xylos, meticulously chipped away at that skepticism, earning a grudging respect from her Lyrani counterparts and even a rare, almost imperceptible nod of approval from Empress Lyra 18 herself, a being whose existence was intertwined with the very fabric of the hegemony, revered as a living goddess by her millions of subjects, her authority absolute, her wisdom legendary, and her presence a source of profound spiritual comfort. For her people, today was a day of grand celebration, a state procession unlike any other, marking the 500th cycle of the hegemony's unification, a momentous occasion that had drawn countless Lyrani from across the empire to Xylos, filling the grand plazas and avenues with a sea of iridescent scales, each reflecting the soft light in a kaleidoscope of greens, blues, and purples, creating a living tapestry of devotion and loyalty as they awaited their empress. Jocks stood vigilant at her post, positioned just behind Empress Lyra's palanquin, her posture rigid, eyes constantly scanning the ecstatic crowd, assessing every face, every movement, her senses on high alert, a silent sentinel amidst the overwhelming cacophony of Lyrani hymns and the rhythmic thrum of their ceremonial drums. The air was thick with the exotic, sweet scent of Xylosian blossoms, mingled with the earthy aroma of the Lyrani themselves, but Jocks, with her unusually sensitive human nose, occasionally caught a fleeting, almost metallic tang beneath it all, a scent she had noticed before, specifically around the Empress's personal quarters, though she had dismissed it as some exotic Lyrani incense or perhaps a byproduct of their advanced technology, never quite pinning it down. Her comms crackled faintly, a low murmur from her human team lead, acknowledging their positions, ensuring all protocols were being maintained. But Jax's focus remained laser-sharp on Empress Lyra, whose majestic form, adorned in ceremonial robes, woven from light itself, stood upon the elevated palanquin, addressing her thronging subjects in a voice that resonated with ancient power, a low, guttural purr that somehow carried across the vast plaza, eliciting roars of adoration from the crowd below. The Empress's scales, usually a vibrant, shifting emerald, seemed particularly bright today, almost glowing with an inner luminescence that captivated all who beheld her. A truly magnificent sight that filled Jacques with a sense of awe despite her professional detachment. Then it happened. Without warning, without a sound, without even a tremor, Empress Lyra 18, in the very middle of a profound decree, her powerful voice echoing across the plaza, suddenly swayed. A barely perceptible wobble that only Jacques, with her trained eye fixed intently on the Empress, managed to catch. It was a movement so slight, so unexpected, that the hundreds of Lyrani advisors and guards surrounding the palanquin, even those closest to her, failed to register it, their attention rapt by her words. But Jacques saw it, a flicker of something. In the Empress's usually steady gaze, a momentary loss of focus, like a distant star suddenly winking out. Then, with an almost agonizing slowness that belied the speed of the impending disaster, Empress Lyra's iridescent scales, moments ago gleaming with brilliant life, began to dim, losing their vibrant emerald hue, fading to a dull, muted green, as if the light within her was being extinguished, leaving only a pale imitation of her former brilliance. Her grand reptilian eyes, usually piercing and full of ancient wisdom, glazed over, and a soft, almost inaudible sigh escaped her massive maw before her colossal form began to crumple, her legs buckling beneath her. A collective gasp, like a sudden intake of breath from a million throats, swept through the plaza, followed by an immediate, terrifying silence. Panic, raw and visceral, erupted among the Lyrani, transforming the celebratory clamor into a rising tide of horrified whispers and desperate cries. The Lyrani royal physicians, traditionally clad in their ornate, silver-threaded robes, stood frozen, their highly sophisticated bioscanners clutched uselessly in their trembling hands, their minds unable to process the impossible sight of their divine empress collapsing. They were paralyzed by shock and reverence, utterly unprepared for such an event, their protocols for a deity simply not including a sudden, unexplained collapse. But Jacques, trained in the chaos of battlefields and the rapid response of diplomatic crises, reacted with the instinctual, lightning speed that only years of intense human royal guard training could instill. Before any of the Lyrani guards could even register what was happening, before the most senior Lyrani physician could stammer out a command, Jacques was already moving. Her boots hit the smooth, polished plinth with barely a whisper, her compact body surging forward with incredible efficiency, a blur of gray human uniform against the vibrant Lyrani procession. She was the first to reach the falling Empress, her strong, well-muscled arms instinctively reaching out, not to catch the massive Lyrani form, which would have been impossible given the Empress's sheer weight and size, but to guide her fall, to prevent her head from striking the hard ceremonial surface of the palanquin. With a practiced maneuver, Jacques smoothly positioned herself, bracing against the palanquin's ornate railing, allowing the Empress to gently slump against her armored shoulder, and then carefully lower her to the cushioned platform, ensuring her airway remained clear. Her coms, which had been silent for a moment, now erupted with frantic chatter from her human team and confused shouts from the Lyrani security forces, but Jax's focus remained solely on the Empress. Her gloved hands, nimble and precise, immediately began a rapid initial assessment. She checked the Empress's pupils, noting their sluggish response, felt for a pulse on the massive artery in her neck, finding it thready and irregular, and swiftly checked for any visible injuries. There were none. The Empress's breathing was shallow, almost imperceptible, and her iridescent scales, which usually shifted with every breath, remained a dull, lifeless green. Her advanced medical training, a standard part of human royal guard protocol for VIP protection, kicked in, providing a calm, analytical framework amidst the growing panic of the Lyrani. Jax noticed the Lyrani physicians, still seemingly in a daze, beginning to stir, but their movements were slow, burdened by their shock and ceremonial robes. Their advanced technology, usually so swift and definitive, seemed useless in their hands. They mumbled arcane phrases, their expressions a mixture of terror and disbelief, their faces contorted with fear for their Empress. Jax, however, felt a cold, professional certainty creeping in. This wasn't a simple feint. The way the Empress's scales had dimmed, the suddenness of the collapse, the complete lack of any prior warning signs that Lyrani medical science, far more advanced in some fields than human, should have detected. It all screamed of something more. As the first of the Lyrani royal physicians finally reached the palanquin, their hands hovering uselessly over the Empress, Jax met their bewildered gaze with a look that conveyed both urgency and a quiet demand for control. She had secured the Empress. Now it was time to find out why this impossible event had occurred. A nagging suspicion already forming in the back of her mind that the reason might be far more complex and far more hidden than anyone realized. The silence of the crowd, a chilling absence of the earlier joyous roars, pressed down on her, creating an oppressive atmosphere that was broken only by the frantic whispers of the Lyrani elite and the distant sirens of approaching emergency. Vehicles, their wails a stark counterpoint to the earlier hymns, signaling an emergency of unprecedented scale for the Lyrani hegemony. Empress Lyra, a figure of immense majesty even in her unconscious state, was carefully levitated by a team of specialized Lyrani lifters, their powerful anti-gravity fields humming softly, as she was swiftly transported from the public palanquin to the heavily guarded royal medical chambers, a fortress of healing nestled deep within the inner rings of the shimmering crystalline palace, its entrance shielded by layers of energy, barriers, and monitored by an array of sentient holographic sentinels. Jax, having ensured the Empress was stabilized for transport, found herself shunted to the outer perimeter, her human presence, despite her crucial initial intervention, suddenly deemed an unnecessary foreign element in this most sacred and sensitive of Lyrani spaces. She watched, her keen eyes missing nothing, as the immense ornate doors hissed shut, sealing the Empress away behind an impenetrable shield of Lyrani secrecy and advanced technology. The air around her remained thick with the lingering scent of fear and ozone, a testament to the sudden trauma that had gripped the hegemony's heart. Hours stretched into a tense, agonizing eternity. From her position, Jax could only observe the frantic, yet ultimately unproductive, movements of the Lyrani royal physicians and the Empress's closest advisors through the transparent yet distorting energy barriers. The Lyrani Medical Bay itself was a marvel of bioengineering, a chamber pulsating with soft ambient light, filled with intricate holographic displays that projected detailed anatomical readouts of the Empress's massive form. Every organ, every circulatory pathway, every neural impulse meticulously rendered in glowing, ethereal colors. The physicians, their silver robes now stained with the sweat of their growing despair, moved with a desperate urgency, deploying an arsenal of advanced bioscanners and diagnostic tools, their long, slender fingers hovering over various consoles, their expressions etched with a deepening bafflement. Their hushed voices, usually calm and authoritative, were now laced with a frantic edge, a low, guttural murmur that Jacques, with her highly developed human auditory senses, could just barely discern through the hum of the energy shields. They spoke of erratic neural patterns, unexplained energy fluctuations, and a perplexing lack of identifiable pathogen or trauma. Their most sophisticated instruments, designed to detect even the most minute cellular abnormalities, continued to return bewilderingly normal readings for a comatose Empress, leaving them with no discernible cause for her sudden collapse. No clear path to treatment.JAX, however, possessed a different kind of diagnostic tool, her own unwavering professionalism and an almost obsessive attention to detail, honed through years of protecting high-value targets in unpredictable environments. While the Lyrani struggled with their overwhelming data, she filtered through her memories of the Empress, recalling seemingly insignificant details that had previously drifted to the periphery of her awareness. There were the subtle tremors, for instance, a faint, almost imperceptible trembling in the Empress's immense limbs during moments of heightened stress or prolonged public addresses, which Jacques had dismissed as a natural nervous energy in a being of such power and responsibility. Then there was that faint, metallic scent she had occasionally detected, especially when she was in close proximity to the Empress's personal chambers, not the sweet xylosian blossoms, nor the earthy Lyrani musk, but something sharp, almost, like ozone or burnt circuitry, a scent that now seemed to cling faintly to the air around the closed medical bay doors, despite the active air scrubbers. Most peculiar of all was a peculiar, almost electrical discharge that she had registered on her personal atmospheric sensors, faint enough to be dismissed as static or localized interference, but consistent enough to be noteworthy, originating specifically from within the Empress's private suite at odd, irregular hours, usually late in the xylosian night cycle, when the palace was at its quietest. Individually, these details were easily explained away, but together now, in the chilling aftermath of the Empress's inexplicable collapse, they began to weave a disturbing, interconnected pattern in Jax's mind, a pattern that pointed towards something far more complex than a simple medical emergency. The Lyrani advisors, typically composed and stoic, now paced with a frenetic energy, their scales flaring with agitation, their voices rising in pitch as they debated possibilities, their whispers turning into desperate pleas. Jacques watched them, her mind working furiously, piecing together fragments of their conversations, interpreting their body language. They spoke of the Empress's waning vitality, a phrase that struck Jacques as oddly archaic for a civilization so technologically advanced, and made cryptic references to a sacred equilibrium that had somehow been disturbed. What did vitality truly mean to the Lyrani, and what equilibrium could be so fragile that it brought their goddess to her knees without a visible cause? The Lyrani physicians continued to jab at their holographic controls, their frustration mounting, their advanced bioscanners seemingly blind to the true issue. It was then that Jacques made a calculated decision. Reaching subtly into the wristband of her human Royal Guard uniform, she activated a covert device, a thin, almost invisible sensor weave. Integrated into the fabric itself, a piece of human-developed technology designed for discreet reconnaissance in alien environments, capable of detecting a wide spectrum of energy frequencies beyond standard Lyrani and even some human military grade scanners. With a minute adjustment, barely a twitch of her wrist, she expanded its range, creating a focused, low-power scan, directing it through the formidable energy barrier of the medical chamber, hoping it wouldn't trip any Lyrani alerts. The weave hummed faintly against her skin, translating the unseen energies into subtle tactile feedback and a barely perceptible visual overlay on the inside of her visor. A faint grid of data points that only she could see. Almost immediately, the weave responded. The familiar background hum of Lyrani medical devices was there, a steady, predictable pattern of energy. But overlaid upon it, Jacques detected something else entirely, faint yet distinct, unusual energy signatures emanating from within the medical bay. These weren't the chaotic, random fluctuations of a failing biological system, nor were they the orderly, precise emissions of standard Lyrani medical technology. No, these signatures were structured, rhythmic, almost artificial. They pulsed with a subtle, non-Lyrani frequency, a resonance that was entirely alien to anything she had catalogued in the hegemony's technological profile. The source appeared to be localized, originating from a specific point deep within the chamber, directly adjacent to where the Empress's life signs were being monitored. It was as if something was actively interfering with the Empress's natural energy fields, or perhaps drawing from them. The realization hit Jacques with the force of a physical blow. This wasn't just an unexplained medical crisis. This was a deliberate act, or perhaps a catastrophic malfunction, of something entirely unknown to the Lyrani themselves. The faint metallic scent, the electrical discharge, the subtle tremors, the Empress's sudden collapse, it all coalesced into a single, chilling conclusion. The Lyrani physicians were baffled because their instruments were searching for a biological ailment, while the true culprit was something else entirely, something hidden, something insidious, radiating these strange, almost predatory energy signatures from the very heart of the Empress's sanctuary. Jacques' training had prepared her for threats from without. Now she realized the greatest danger might be lurking within the very walls that protected their sacred sovereign. The game had changed, and it was clear that humanity, or at least one human guard, would have to uncover the truth. The sterile hum of the Lyrani Royal Medical Chambers, a low throne that vibrated through the very floor beneath Jacques' boots, seemed to mock her from beyond the shimmering energy barrier, as if emphasizing her exclusion from the crisis she had been first to confront. And with every passing minute that Empress Lyra remained unresponsive, the frantic energy of the Lyrani advisors grew more pronounced, their hushed, guttural voices, laced with a desperate urgency, their scales flaring with agitation, as their most advanced bioscanners continued to offer no definitive answers, only more questions about the Empress's perplexing collapse. Jox, still positioned at the perimeter, her earlier, subtle energy scan confirming the presence of anomalous, structured signatures emanating from deep within the protected chamber, knew with a certainty that hummed in her bones that this was not a mere medical mystery, but something far more insidious, something hidden from even the Lyrani's own cutting-edge diagnostics. And her instincts, honed by years of surviving impossible situations, screamed at her to get inside, to find the source of those strange energies that seemed to be systematically draining the life from their sacred Empress. The Lyrani, consumed by their shock and reverence, moved with a slow, almost ritualistic solemnity, their security protocols rigid and unyielding, designed to deter direct assault rather than subtle infiltration, a weakness Jox had long identified in their otherwise formidable defenses. Realizing that their emphasis on brute force and overt displays of power often blinded them to more nuanced threats, with a determination that hardened her features, Jox began her calculated risk, her gaze sweeping across the seamless, crystalline walls of the chamber, searching for the almost invisible seam, the subtle indentation that marked a service conduit or an emergency access panel, knowing that even the most meticulously designed alien architecture must have points of entry for maintenance or repair, no matter how well concealed. Her highly trained eyes finally landed on a barely perceptible line, a hair-thin fissure running vertically along a section of the wall, disguised perfectly within the intricate, non-Euclidean patterns that adorn the chamber's exterior, a line that most Lyrani guards, focused on larger threats, would never notice, but which screamed access point to Jox's experienced senses. Moving with a practiced nonchalance that belied the racing adrenaline in her veins, she casually leaned against the wall, her left hand subtly brushing against the hidden seam, her specialized gauntlet-mounted multi-tool, a marvel of human engineering, designed for covert operations already warmed and ready. With a series of precise, almost imperceptible movements, she engaged a microscopic cutting laser, its beam thinner than a hair, tracing the hidden outline of the panel, then deployed a micro-level sonic disruptor, its silent vibrations disengaging the hidden electromagnetic locks that secured the section. A faint click, audible only to her enhanced hearing, signaled success, and the narrow panel, no wider than her forearm, silently unsealed, revealing a cramped, dark service conduit, a snaking tunnel of thick power cables and flickering diagnostic lights, leading deeper into the palace's forgotten arteries. She slipped inside with the fluid grace of a shadow, the panel clicking silently shut behind her, plunging her into an oppressive darkness that was only broken by the faint glow of indicator lights on the unseen Lyrani infrastructure, the air within thick with the coppery tang of aged lubricants and the faint, familiar scent of the metallic discharge she had noticed earlier, now much stronger, almost intoxicating in its presence. The conduit was a tight squeeze, forcing her to move in a low crouch, her helmet-mounted thermal vision array immediately snapping to life, painting the metallic surfaces in ghostly greens and blues, revealing the intricate network of pipes and wires that crisscrossed above and below her. Lyrani security was robust, but their internal surveillance systems relied heavily on movement and standard energy signatures, failing to account for the unique frequency dampeners woven into Jax's uniform and the ultra-low power emissions of her human gear. She bypassed a series of optical sensors by flowing through their blind spots, expertly disabling a pressure-sensitive floor panel with a magnetic field projector, her movements precise and economical, never wasting a second, every motion a testament to years of rigorous training. She was deep behind enemy lines, in a sense, but these weren't enemies. They were bewildered allies, and that made her mission even more delicate, more urgent. Following the strongest concentration of the anomalous energy signatures her wrist-mounted scanner had pinpointed earlier, Jax navigated the labyrinthine conduit, the hum of the strange energy growing steadily stronger, vibrating against her very teeth, guiding her through the darkness. The conduit narrowed further, forcing her to crawl on her belly for several meters, her breath held tight until she reached a section directly adjacent to the medical chamber, the wall here thicker, reinforced, but emitting the strongest, most coherent energy signature yet. This was it. This was the source. Activating a specialized acoustic sensor, she pressed her helmet against the cool, metallic surface, straining to discern any sounds from within the medical bay. Her enhanced hearing picked up the faint, rhythmic beeping of Lyrani life support, the muffled tread of their physicians, and then, distinctively, the hushed, anxious voices of the Lyrani advisors, their deep guttural tones now clearer, the words forming with chilling clarity. ... Her vitality wanes, Grand Advisor 1. Voice, rich with fear, rumbled. The dampener is failing. It drains too much. Failing? Impossible. Another sharper voice retorted, tinged with disbelief. It is ancient, yes, but flawless. It maintains the sacred equilibrium. Jax froze, her heart hammering against her ribs. Dampener, sacred equilibrium. These weren't medical terms. This was the missing piece. This explained why the Lyrani physicians were baffled. They were looking for a disease, not a technological malfunction, not a device designed to alter the Empress's state. The muffled conversation continued, growing more agitated. The tremors were increasing for cycles, Grand Advisor, subtle but present. And now ... this complete collapse. The draining is too rapid. If the equilibrium is broken entirely, it could be catastrophic, not just for her, but for all of us. The words sent a chill down Jax's spine, painting a terrifying picture, not just for the Empress, but for all of us. What kind of power did this Empress wield that it's uncontrolled? Release could threaten an entire civilization? Her attention snapped back to the wall, her gloved fingers tracing the faint outline of the energy source she had detected. With renewed urgency, she deployed her micro-scanner again, this time focusing its beam directly on the specific point of the highest energy concentration, ignoring the Lyrani medical tech. The scanner's visual overlay flickered, then resolved a faint thermal outline within the wall itself. It wasn't just near the Empress. It was perfectly aligned with where her personal stasis bed would be in the chamber beyond, a deliberate, concealed placement. With swift, silent precision, Jax initiated a pinpoint thermal drill, the diamond-tipped bit biting into the dense, alien alloy, creating a small, almost microscopic aperture. She then inserted a fiber optic probe, no thicker than a single strand of hair, its lens equipped with ultra-low light amplification. The feed instantly appeared on her visor's internal display. The image was grainy, but clear enough. Embedded covertly within the shimmering crystalline wall, concealed behind a thin, almost translucent layer of Lyrani biocircuitry, was a device unlike anything she had ever encountered. It was sleek, perfectly sculpted from a material that seemed to absorb all light, appearing obsidian black, yet simultaneously possessing a strange inner luminosity that pulsed with a faint, almost imperceptible rhythm. It was roughly the size of a human forearm, elongated and smooth. Without a single seam or visible power source, its surface adorned with intricate, non-Euclidean patterns that seemed to ripple and shift when viewed from different angles, making it almost impossible to focus on its true form. It didn't look Lyrani, not with its smooth, organic curves contrasting with their typically geometric and crystalline designs. As she watched through the probe, a faint, high-pitched hum resonated from the device, a sound too subtle for the human ear to typically detect, but clear through her sensitive equipment. Her scanner immediately confirmed what her intuition already suspected. The device was actively siphoning, not injecting. The energy flow was undeniable, a subtle, almost invisible current of bioelectrical and psionic energy being drawn from the direction of the Empress's stasis bed and into the device itself, which then seemed to dissipate it, or perhaps convert it into something else. It was a drain, an extractor, not a life support system, and it was clearly malfunctioning, pulling too much too fast, overwhelming the Empress's system, disrupting that sacred equilibrium the Lyrani advisors whispered about with such dread. The metallic scent, the electrical discharge, the tremors, the collapse, it all made horrifying sense. This dampener wasn't to heal her. It was to control something immense within her, a volatile power that, if unleashed, could indeed be catastrophic. Jocks pulled the probe back, sealing the tiny aperture with a spray of biosynthetic resin, her mind reeling with the implications. The Lyrani were unknowingly, or perhaps knowingly, relying on an alien device to manage their Empress's inherent power, and now that device was killing her, not through malice, but through a catastrophic, hidden failure. The fate of the Empress, and perhaps the entire Lyrani hegemony, now rested on one human guard who had just uncovered a truth far more profound and terrifying than anyone could have imagined. Climbing out of the cramped service conduit, Jocks resealed the hidden panel with meticulous care, ensuring no trace of her intrusion remained, her heart pounding a steady rhythm against her ribs, not from physical exertion but from the profound weight of the discovery she had just made, a truth that seemed to vibrate in the very air around her, thick with the unspoken fear of the Lyrani. The dampener, as the advisors had called it, hummed its silent, draining tune within the wall, its existence a terrifying secret that now rested squarely on her shoulders. Her priority was immediate and clear, discreetly transmit her findings to the human embassy. Leaning casually against a structural pillar, her posture mirroring the bored indifference of a guard on a long shift, she initiated a secure, encrypted burst transmission from her gauntlet-mounted comm unit, targeting the human ambassador's private frequency. The message was concise, encoded with layers of military-grade encryption. Anomaly confirmed, device found, non-Lyrani. power drain, not pathogen. Empress's equilibrium is psychic, not physical. Requires immediate, covert human specialist intervention. Recommend full analysis of device signature from source. The data packet containing the energy signature of the obsidian device and a rapid summary of her observations, including the Lyrani advisor's whispered conversation, vanished into the vast comm net, its path untraceable by Lyrani sensors. A digital confirmation flash across her visor signaled receipt, and a wave of controlled relief washed over her. The burden was shared, at least in part. While the human embassy's covert analysis teams, a specialized unit of Zenitech engineers and nascent psionic specialists, began the arduous task of decoding the alien device's function from the energy signature alone, Jax returned to her post, maintaining her facade of watchful inactivity. Her mind, however, was a whirlwind of deductions, sifting through every piece of data she had gathered, every fleeting observation, every overheard snippet of conversation. The puzzle pieces, once scattered and seemingly unrelated, were now falling into place with a chilling precision. The Lyrani, due to their unique, highly evolved reptilian biology, possessed an inherent capacity for psionic energy, a latent ability, present in all Lyrani, but magnified exponentially in certain individuals, particularly within their royal lineage. Empress Lyra, being the most powerful scion in the hegemony, accumulated this raw, volatile energy at an exponential rate, a living reservoir of immense, uncontrolled power. Jax remembered the subtle tremors, the electrical discharges she had. Dismissed as static, these were not signs of illness, but of a power too vast to contain, a power that even the Empress struggled to suppress. The metallic scent she had detected? Not incense, but the subtle, telltale aroma of overloaded psionic dampening fields, a byproduct of the device's constant struggle to contain the Empress's burgeoning energy. The dampener, Jax now understood with terrifying clarity, wasn't a malicious device intended to harm the Empress. Instead, it was a crucial ancient failsafe, designed to harmlessly bleed off this dangerous excess psionic energy, preventing a catastrophic psionic overload that would not only destroy the Empress from within, but potentially unleash a devastating psychic shockwave across Xylos, perhaps even across the entire Lyrani star system. The sacred equilibrium the advisors spoke of wasn't about the Empress's general health, but about maintaining the delicate balance of her immense volatile psionic power, keeping it in check, preventing it from consuming her and, by extension, threatening the entire hegemony. This device, alien in origin and design, was not a Lyrani invention. It was a relic, perhaps from an even older, unknown civilization, entrusted to the Lyrani to manage their Empress's inherited burden. Now it was malfunctioning, draining too much, pushing the Empress to the brink of biological collapse, depleting her vital life force as it struggled to contain her overwhelming psionic energy. The Lyrani physicians, trapped within their biological frameworks, were blind to this truth because their instruments were designed to detect disease and injury, not an internal energy imbalance exacerbated by a failing, hidden technological marvel. Their panic, their confusion, their desperate measures all stemmed from their fundamental misunderstanding of the true nature of the Empress's malady. As the Lyrani medical team continued their futile efforts, Their bioscanners stubbornly reporting no physical anomalies, the air in the palace grew heavier with desperation. Jocks, observing their frustration, felt a strange mix of empathy and professional detachment. She understood their plight. Faced with a problem beyond their comprehension, they clung to familiar paradigms. But humanity, in its relatively brief galactic history, had developed a unique aptitude for problem-solving that often transcended conventional approaches, born from a necessity to survive and thrive in a universe dominated by older, more powerful species. While the Lyrani specialized in bioengineering and planetary terraforming, humanity had quietly excelled in fields like adaptive xenotechnology and theoretical psionics, often bridging gaps where established alien sciences failed. Hours later, a coded message from the human embassy flickered on her internal visor display. The preliminary analysis of the device's energy signature confirmed Jax's theory. It was indeed a psionic dampening field generator, but its resonance patterns indicated an advanced, non-Lyrani origin, suggesting technology far beyond their current capabilities, even beyond humanity's. The report also contained a chilling addendum. The device was failing rapidly, its internal regulatory systems collapsing, causing an uncontrolled cascade failure that was indeed siphoning off the Empress's life force along with the excess psionic energy, an act that would prove fatal within the next 72 Lyrani hours if not rectified. The urgency of the situation escalated exponentially. The fate of the Empress, and potentially the stability of the entire Lyrani hegemony, hinged on humanity's ability to intervene covertly without exposing the Lyrani's profound vulnerability or revealing the ancient secret of the Empress's psionic burden, a secret that could shatter the fragile alliance and ignite xenophobic fears among the Lyrani. Jox felt the immense weight of this revelation settle upon her. The Lyrani, proud and powerful, had cultivated an image of invincibility, their empress, a divine, perfect being. To reveal that their sovereign relied on a hidden, failing alien device to manage her own power, a device now killing her, would be a devastating blow to their morale and their trust in their own ancient wisdom. Humanity had to act, and they had to act in absolute secrecy, becoming the silent saviors of an empire without ever claiming credit. The challenge was immense: how to repair or replace a piece of alien technology that even its original creators had likely deemed beyond repair without the Lyrani knowing. How to perform such a delicate operation in the heart of their most secure facility, under the watchful, albeit confused, eyes of their most trusted guards and physicians? The air in the perimeter became thick with unspoken tension, the frantic pacing of the Lyrani advisors a testament to their mounting despair, while Jax, a single human guard, held the terrifying, liberating truth within her grasp, the burden of a dying empress resting heavy on her shoulders, knowing that only humanity's ingenuity and her own unwavering courage stood between the Lyrani hegemony and utter catastrophe. The clock was ticking, and with every passing minute, the Empress slipped further away, her life force draining into the hungry, malfunctioning void of the whispering device. The silent tick of the Lyrani Palace's grand chronometer, a massive, crystalline structure that dominated the central atrium, seemed to amplify the unbearable tension that had settled over the human embassy, each slow sweep of its luminous hand marking the relentless passage of time against the Empress's dwindling, life force, a stark reminder of the rapidly approaching 72-hour deadline. Within the embassy's secure underground command center, a flurry of controlled, yet frantic, activity commenced immediately after Jax's encoded transmission, and the subsequent analysis confirmed the true nature of the dampener. Ambassador Elara Vance, a shrewd diplomat with an iron will beneath her serene exterior, wasted no time convening an emergency top-secret meeting with her most trusted advisors, including the head of the embassy's covert operations, Commander Rorick, a veteran of numerous Black Ops missions. The situation was dire. Humanity possessed the unique knowledge to save Empress Lyra, but doing so required an unprecedented level of covert infiltration into the most sacred and heavily guarded Lyrani space, all while maintaining absolute secrecy. To avoid shattering the fragile political stability of the Lyrani hegemony and, by extension, the human-Lyrani alliance itself, the initial plan to repair the original alien dampener was swiftly dismissed. The device's ancient, non-Lyrani origin meant its internal workings were a complete enigma, its technology far beyond current human or Lyrani comprehension. Attempting a repair under such extreme time constraints, without proper schematics or understanding of its complex, exotic components, was a gamble they couldn't afford. The risk of further damaging the Empress or triggering an even larger psionic catastrophe was too great. Instead, Commander Rorick, known for his audacious and often unconventional solutions, proposed a daring alternative. If they couldn't fix the original, they would create a temporary human-made psionic regulator. It was an audacious concept, born from humanity's peculiar genius for adaptive engineering and its burgeoning, albeit nascent, understanding of psionic abilities, a field that was still largely theoretical for them, but which they had approached with their characteristic scientific curiosity and problem-solving zeal. While the Lyrani had focused on bioengineering and the manipulation of physical reality, humanity had, in its own quiet way, begun to unravel the mysteries of consciousness and energy, developing a rudimentary but highly flexible psionic resonance technology. A small, hand-picked team of human engineers and psionic specialists, pulled from the deepest, most classified research divisions, was assembled within hours, their faces grim but resolute. Dr. Anya Sharma, a brilliant, if eccentric, psionic theoretician with an uncanny intuitive grasp of energy fields, became the lead specialist. Her hands, usually covered in complex equations, now moved with frantic precision, overseeing the rapid fabrication of a prototype regulator. This human device would be cruder in design than the elegant alien dampener, lacking its seamless integration and ancient power, but it would be effective. It would utilize a combination of advanced energy manipulation fields and a unique form of psionic resonance circuitry, designed to gently siphon off the Empress's excess psionic energy while simultaneously providing a stabilizing biofeedback loop to prevent her life force from being drained. The challenge was immense, calibrating a device to interact with an alien psionic signature they barely understood, on a being they knew only through Jax's observations and the Empress's rapidly deteriorating vital signs, all within a matter of hours. Meanwhile, Jax, now officially part of the covert infiltration team, meticulously briefed Rorick and Sharma on the palace layout, the Lyrani security protocols, and the minute details of the Empress's medical chamber, providing invaluable intelligence gathered during her 2 cycles of close observation. She detailed the blind spots in the Lyrani's optical sensors, the frequency vulnerabilities of their energy shields, and the subtle shifts in their patrol patterns during periods of heightened tension. Her photographic memory and almost supernatural attention to detail proved invaluable. The plan was refined, the team, disguised as additional human security personnel being dispatched to aid the Lyrani guards in maintaining order amidst the growing public unease, would gain access to the palace. Jox, leveraging her intimate knowledge of the palace's forgotten service conduits, would then guide them covertly to the Empress's medical chambers. The operation had to be executed with absolute stealth, leaving no trace of human interference. Under the cover of a massive Lyrani public reassurance broadcast, which momentarily diverted the full attention of the palace's external monitoring systems, the human team moved. Dressed in the standard, inconspicuous gray uniforms of embassy security, their equipment miniaturized and concealed within their clothing, they passed through the outer checkpoints, their faces impassive. Jox led the way, her senses on high. Alert, her movements fluid and economical as she navigated the familiar, yet now infinitely more dangerous corridors of the Lyrani Palace. The constant, low hum of the Lyrani medical bay, now closer, was a chilling reminder of the urgency of their mission. Reaching the access panel she had used before, Jox quickly disabled its locks with a silent burst from her multi-tool, her eyes darting constantly. Ensuring no Lyrani patrol was in sight, they slipped into the dark, cramped service conduit, the air thick with the same coppery tongue Jox had noticed earlier, the scent of the malfunctioning dampener now more potent, almost suffocating. Dr. Sharma, though a theoretician by trade, moved with surprising agility, her keen eyes, magnified by specialized night vision goggles, already scanning the intricate network of pipes and wires, assessing the structural integrity of the conduit walls. Commander Rorik, ever the pragmatist, kept a watchful eye on their rear, his silenced sidearm a silent promise of swift, lethal intervention if their cover was blown. The journey through the labyrinthine conduits was fraught with tension. They bypassed a series of advanced motion sensors by calculating their oscillation patterns and moving in precise, synchronized bursts. A rogue energy surge from a power conduit forced them to press themselves flat against the grimy wall, their thermal signatures suppressed by their suits' active camouflage, as a blast of hot air and static electricity rushed past. Each obstacle overcome was a small victory, bringing them closer to their objective, closer to the dying Empress. Finally, after what felt like an eternity of silent crawling and precise maneuvering, they reached the section of the conduit directly, adjacent to the Empress's stasis bed, the faint hum of the alien dampener now vibrating through the very concrete beneath their hands. "This is it," Jox whispered, her voice barely a breath. "The device is just through this wall." Dr. Sharma immediately went to work, deploying a compact multi-spectral scanner, the holographic projection that bloomed silently in the air above. Her device confirmed the presence of the obsidian dampener, its energy signature erratic, unstable, a clear indication of its catastrophic failure. "It's worse than we thought," Sharma murmured, her brow furrowed in concentration. "The energy bleed is almost total. Her life signs are critical." With the dire confirmation, the team moved with a new, heightened sense of urgency. Rorik set up a perimeter, his eyes constantly scanning the access points. Sharma, with Jax assisting, began the delicate process of installing the human-made psionic regulator. It was a crude, hastily assembled contraption compared to the alien original, but it was designed with humanity's hallmark adaptability, a series of miniature, high-frequency emitters and a compact biofeedback processor, all powered by a microfusion. So, the trick was to integrate it without disturbing the original failing device or triggering any Lyrani alerts. Jax used her multi-tool to create a series of almost invisible apertures in the wall, strategically placing the emitters, to create a localized psionic field that would envelop the Empress's stasis bed. Gently siphoning off the excess energy, Dr. Sharma, her brow beaded with sweat, carefully calibrated the frequencies, fine-tuning the regulator to resonate with the Empress's specific psionic signature, a complex task that relied heavily on her intuitive understanding of alien consciousness. Every click, every whir of the miniaturized tools seemed amplified in the suffocating silence of the conduit. The weight of an entire alien empire and the fragile alliance with humanity hung precariously in the balance, dependent on the ingenuity of a few humans working in absolute secrecy, their only guide the desperate hope that their crude but effective technology could save a dying goddess. The low, almost inaudible hum of the newly installed human-made psionic regulator vibrated through the crystalline wall of the medical chamber, a fragile counterpoint to the erratic, dying pulse of the ancient alien dampener still embedded deep within the Lyrani Palace's structure, a subtle testament to humanity's desperate gamble to save Empress Lyra. Dr. Sharma, her face a mask of intense concentration, made the final, infinitesimal adjustments to the regulator's frequency, her fingers hovering over a miniature holographic interface, her every movement precise and deliberate, aware that the slightest miscalculation could lead to catastrophic failure. Jax stood sentinel beside her, her eyes fixed on the faint, shimmering projection of the Empress's vital signs displayed on Sharma's portable console, watching for any change, her heart a drumbeat against the silence of the conduit. Commander. Rorik, ever vigilant, maintained their perimeter, his ears strained for any sound from beyond their hidden access point, ready to abort the mission at a moment's notice if their covert operation was compromised. The air was thick with a nervous tension, a palpable sense of impending climax, as the fate of an empire teetered on the brink. Then a flicker, a minute almost imperceptible shift in the holographic projection of Empress Lyra's neural patterns. The chaotic, spiking lines began to smooth out, the erratic energy fluctuations lessening, becoming more stable, more rhythmic. A collective, silent breath was held by the human team. "It's working," Dr. Sharma whispered, her voice barely audible, a hint of awe in her tone. "The energy drain is stabilizing. Her life signs, they're improving." The Empress's iridescent scales, which had remained a dull, lifeless green since her collapse, now seemed to catch a faint inner light, a subtle shimmer returning to their surface, like sunlight breaking through thick clouds. It was a slow, agonizing process, each minute feeling like an hour, as the human regulator gently, persistently siphoned off the dangerous excess psionic energy, allowing the Empress's own depleted life force to slowly, agonizingly regenerate. The erratic pulse on the life sign monitor began to steady, growing stronger, more defined, a clear sign of recovery. After what felt like an eternity, but was in reality only a few short Lirani hours, the improvement became undeniable. The Empress's breathing deepened, becoming more regular, more robust. The inner glow of her scales intensified, regaining more of their vibrant emerald hue. The chaotic neural patterns had not only stabilized, but were showing signs of increasing activity, a clear indication that the Empress was slowly, miraculously, regaining consciousness. "She's waking," Jax murmured, a profound sense of relief washing over her, a feeling almost foreign in her rigidly disciplined world. Dr. Sharma nodded, her face etched with exhaustion, but also with a quiet triumph. "The regulator is performing. Optimally, we've brought her back from the brink. The immediate danger had passed. The sacred equilibrium had been restored, not by Lyrani wisdom, but by human ingenuity. With the Empress's recovery seemingly assured, the delicate process of withdrawal began. The human team, moving with the same stealth and precision as their infiltration, carefully disconnected their temporary psionic regulator. Commander Rorik then initiated a sequence of highly localized, short-burst energy pulses designed to utterly neutralize and then dematerialize the ancient, malfunctioning alien dampener still embedded in the wall, reducing it to inert dust, leaving no physical trace of its existence. This was the most critical part of the operation, ensuring that the Lyrani would never discover the truth of their Empress's hidden burden or humanity's covert intervention. The Lyrani's own technology, despite its sophistication, was incapable of detecting such a subtle, targeted dematerialization. The dust, too fine to be seen by the naked eye, was then dissipated by an internal air filtration system on Rorik's gauntlet, leaving the wall pristine, seamless, and completely devoid of any alien presence. Just as the last vestiges of the alien device vanished, a faint stir came from within the medical chamber. The Lyrani physicians, who had been huddled in despair, their faces etched with grief, suddenly gasped. Empress Lyra 18, their divine sovereign, slowly, majestically stirred. Her immense reptilian eyes, once clouded and vacant, fluttered, open, gleaming with a renewed brilliance that filled the chamber with an almost palpable energy. She moved, a slight twitch of her colossal limbs, a testament to her returning strength. The Lyrani physicians erupted into a cacophony of ecstatic roars, their relief palpable, their ceremonial robes flapping as they rushed forward, their bioscanners now flashing with readings that confirmed what their eyes could barely believe. Their Empress was recovering, rapidly and miraculously. They attributed it to their traditional remedies and the Empress's inherent resilience, chanting ancient Lyrani hymns of praise to the cosmos for her resurgence, blissfully unaware of the silent, unseen hand that had truly intervened. Jax, observing through her fiber-optic probe from the darkened conduit, felt a quiet satisfaction. Her mission was complete. As the Lyrani celebrated, a single Lyrani advisor, one of the few who had witnessed Jax's lightning-fast initial intervention, approached the now-stirring Empress, whispering words of concern. Empress Lyra, her eyes still heavy-lidded, but gleaming with intelligence, turned her gaze, and then her eyes filled with an ancient, profound wisdom, drifted towards the crystalline wall where the alien dampener had once been, and where the human regulator had briefly worked its magic. Her gaze lingered there for a long moment, a knowing glint in her reptilian eyes before subtly shifting towards the outer perimeter, precisely where Jax was positioned unseen. There was no sound, no direct acknowledgement, no breaking of the Lyrani protocol. But then it happened. Empress Lyra 18, the divine sovereign of the Lyrani hegemony, offered a subtle, almost imperceptible nod, a gesture so small, so fleeting, that only Jax, with her senses honed to an impossible degree, could have caught it. It was a silent understanding, a profound, unspoken acknowledgement that transcended species, language, and culture. The Empress knew. She understood that her sacred equilibrium had been restored not by Lyrani hands, but by the quiet ingenuity of humanity. The human team, having completed their covert operation, slipped back into the service conduits, leaving no trace of their presence, their mission a secret shared only among themselves, and now the Empress herself. The event, though unacknowledged publicly, subtly shifted the power dynamics within the human-Lyrani alliance. The human team had not only saved the Empress, but had also demonstrated humanity's unparalleled adaptability and problem-solving capabilities, their unique approach to seemingly intractable problems. This earned them the deep, if unspoken, gratitude of the Lyrani. The original alien device, now nothing more than dust, its true nature remaining a profound secret shared between the Empress and her human protectors, ensured that the Lyrani's faith in their own strength remained unshaken, while subtly reinforcing humanity's invaluable position as an ally. Empress Lyra, now acutely aware of her hidden vulnerability and humanity's unique aptitude, began to view the United Solarian Federation not just as diplomatic partners, but as crucial guardians in an uncertain galaxy. Humanity, the young, adaptable species, had become the silent saviors of an ancient empire, their ingenuity a new, powerful force in the cosmic balance, forever solidifying their place in the universe. The hegemony, though unaware of the full truth, would slowly, subtly, begin to lean on their human allies in ways they never thought possible, forging a bond far deeper than mere diplomacy, bound by a secret trust and an unyielding spark of human brilliance.